It's such a big time, as we all know and as we all feel. So we're in this very intense energy cycle, and it's meant to be a time that allows us to consciously choose what we're going to create from a more empowered place. So I see astrology as this beautiful system of consciousness, a navigation tool, a way to understand the cycles and timing of what's unfolding in our life now. We didn't go to church, we didn't practice anything. It was very open. I was just trying to understand things, always curious, always wanting, to understand what this meant or what that was about. And it was through astrology that I actually found something that started to land. The language of astrology really spoke to me. The deeper I dove, David, into astrology and the more specific it became, it's like things just lit up in me. It just became my passion. It was just something I always did and I always returned to.
When she was just a child, she found herself wandering library aisles, drawn to books about astrology. And by the time Molly was a teenager, she was already reading birth charts for her friends. Today, those early experiences have evolved into a body of work that helps people navigate some of the most intense, energetic times we've ever lived through. Molly McCord is an astrologer, channel, and the voice behind the Intuitive Astrology podcast, where she helps people understand what's unfolding in their lives and how to consciously choose the higher path forward. In March, Molly will be a featured presenter at the Sedona Ascension Retreat, and Mandy and I are so excited to be there. We encourage you to get tickets at SedonaAscensionRetreats.com. In this episode, you'll learn how astrology can help you choose the higher path when life feels intense. I'm your host, David Trotter. Welcome to the Awaken Magazine podcast. Molly, thanks so much for taking time to connect with us today. It's great to see you.
Thank you, David. I'm so happy to be here and to have a great conversation today.
I want to hear from your perspective and an astrological perspective, what is going on in our world today? I ask this to experts like yourself oftentimes as kind of the first question, because I want to get a flavor for your perspective. And specifically, I look at the news headlines. I'm kind of a New York Times guy. I scroll through the headlines and there's so many good things and so many really challenging things. So how does astrology help you see what's going on in the world, and what do you sense is happening?
Well, it's such a big time, as we all know and as we all feel. And it's meant to be a time that allows us to consciously choose what we're going to create from a more empowered place. And so we have all these pressure points right now in all these areas of our lives requiring us to make a choice, to move ahead, to evolve. But then it shows up as first triggering our fears, our shadows, our inner child. We see how far we've come on our healing path, and we have things that we check in on. So we're in this very intense energy cycle that astrology reveals to us through archetypes, through expression, through themes. And astrology allows us to, understand the stories or understand what is coming up for us so that we can mentally understand it. We can think it through. We can, apply it to ourselves individually. And then we can basically choose the higher path. And so that's kind of a big picture perspective on how astrology assists us right now, is that it brings forward things for us to consider and ponder that we can then apply to our own lives and see how it's playing out in the world at large. So I see astrology as this beautiful system of consciousness, a navigation tool, a way to understand the cycles and timing of what's unfolding in our life now, and to use it to guide our paths forward.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with passion. I just love the passion that flows through you, right? So good. Yeah. So great. I want to hear about your own journey of awakening to consciousness, mindfulness, spirituality. And I know a little bit about your childhood, but did you grow up in a family that had some sort of faith or spirituality experience, or did you kind of explore that on your own?
No, I didn't. I mean, we didn't go to church. We didn't practice anything. It was very open. Both my parents actually came from a pretty strict Catholic background, and they didn't want their kids on that same path. So it was very open. And so I was just trying to understand things, trying to understand different religions, different practices, always curious, always wanting, to understand what this meant or what that was about. And it was through astrology that I actually found something that started to land, because the language of astrology really spoke to me. I think it was also the personal nature of it, where we all start with our sun sign and what that means, and usually some, things in the newspaper or magazines that's supposed to be relevant to us. But the deeper I dove, David, into astrology and the more specific it became, it's like things just lit up in me that felt very validating. I
How
also
did how
felt
did you how did you by the way, I gotta interrupt because I want to know, how did you stumble across astrology? Like, how did that come into your life?
through library books, through books, and through the Sunshine books, and through, yeah, Linda Goodman, certainly, and then various other books that I would just find in the library and dive into and get into the meaning of this and the purpose of that and what is this symbol about. Because it's a whole language, it's a whole, symbol system that is a lot at first. It's a lot.
How
Um,
old were you when you first stumbled across that?
I was like 11, 12, and I had my first reading, my first professional astrology reading as a sweet 16 present. And then I kept studying on my own. And I liked to have some like practice sessions or conversations with friends about their chart and what it meant. So it just kept, snowballing and developing. And then I was able to come across some mentors who I studied with one on one, a lot more books, a lot more classes. It just became my passion. It was just something I always did and I always returned to. I remember even in college, like going into the computer lab, where you could only stay for 1 hour and just looking up some astrology things to understand what was going on in my life. So it just became something that I always turned to that validated my journey. And I feel that's what a lot of people are finding with astrology, is that it really explains what's going on in your own world.
Yeah. Did people at some point go, okay, Molly, enough with the astrology? Or were they just like, give me more, give me more, give me more?
Probably both, right? Like, I mean, I would be very clear in who to talk to about these things. In fact, I don't even bring up astrology with people. Like, they might bring it up with me, but it's not something I'm just out there sharing unless they come to my podcast or my platform. But I found that people who were genuinely into it had the same questions that I did, and they're looking to understand themselves more. And good astrology will show you more of who you are, show you more of all of your talents and abilities and what you're good at and what you're here to create and experience. And so it becomes highly specific to the individual. And it's also self verifying, David. So it's like you verify for you, yes, this is accurate. Yes, this is true. And that alone, it's like people have a lot of what you could call buy in. They're like, yes, this is true because this really validates who I am.
Hmm. I'm curious about your career path because we have a lot of people that watch or listen to our show who are on that path of wanting to spend their time on their passion, right? They want to be a healer, a coach, a speaker, whatever it might be. How did that unfold for you? What career path did you take? And at what point were you able to step into this in more of a full time capacity?
It's very slow, very unintentional, very unexpected, is how I became an astrologer. Never thought I would do this professionally. In fact, I was afraid. And one of my early mentors, she told me like decades ago now, she's like, you could be an astrologer, because it was in my chart, like professionally in my chart, that I could be an astrologer. And that was both exhilarating and terrifying because there's a lot of responsibility with that. So I never felt like I was really ready until some things just started to transpire within me that I felt like that, yes, I want to do this more. Yes, I want to build this as a business. Yes, I would love to serve people and help them understand this language even more and how it could assist them. So I did a lot in my career that was much more corporate. I did a lot. I worked in various like government type roles and very structured environments. I went and got a master's degree in international relations and diplomacy because I thought I would be doing something more global and worldwide. Something out there like with the State Department or whatever. And so I had all these different versions of my life that I thought it would be, and especially in my 20s, where you're really looking for what's my path, what's my career, how do I build this? So I've done a lot of things. I've had a lot of different jobs. I did a lot in sales. I did a lot of marketing, a lot of online, digital marketing and strategy. And so it turned out that what was unfolding that I didn't even know was that all of that work, experience, and all that time was actually so that I could take that and invest it in my own platform and
Mm,
build up my own astrology business, which started back in like 2011 is when I had my first website. So
okay.
it's taken me years to build all this up. But it became something that I had to say yes to gradually and I had to embrace. And I was afraid at times. Like, just to be very honest with people, to go out there as an astrologer is more accepted now, but it wasn't 10 years ago. It was even kind of harder 7 years ago. So now we're in a climate and an environment that more people seek it out and it's much more mainstream. But it was something that I had doubts about. Can this be a business? Do people want this? Where is this going to go? Just like any pioneer, like any person who is here to build their own path and build their own business, you don't have guarantees, but that always motivated me. That always got me excited. Like this could be anything I want it to be. So I guess keep that in mind for those of you who have a calling and feel that you are here to use your gifts with people. Trust that the universe is going to show you more than you ever could have expected or ever could have planned. And the more open you are to that, the more satisfying and motivating it can be.
Hmm. What's amazing, I interview a lot of people, and you have a presence and an embodiment in the way that you communicate about astrology, about yourself, that is it's very refined. Like not in a sense of like I'm refined, right? Like, but more in a sense of like, wow, you really are focused. And I can feel that
Okay.
coming through in a real beautiful way. Yeah, it's
Oh,
really powerful in your words. Yeah.
thank
Uh,
you. I
yeah.
appreciate that. I think that's something that has been developed, over time. But I think that's also where I feel so clear and focused that this is my soul's calling. This is
Yeah.
my soul's work. And a lot of astrologers will say too that they didn't choose astrology, astrology chose me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I feel like there's something to that too. Even when we think about like the future of astrology, more people are going to feel a calling to it because it's such an ancient, wise wisdom, such an
Mhm.
ancient language of energy that brings alive something more within us. So, anyways, thank you for saying that. But I feel like there's excitement brewing around how astrology is going to be growing in the next number of years.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk specifically about your, I don't even know the right word, style, methodology of astrology. I just interviewed the other day Richard James of Starcast Weekly on Gaia, and he utilizes evolutionary astrology. And I'm relatively new to the spiritual space, like in the last 5 years, and astrology has not been something that I have really delved into a lot. So I'm on the journey of learning. So when you say your focus is Western tropical astrology, I've interviewed Vedic astrologers and Richard with evolutionary astrology. Western astrology is what most people are familiar with, I believe. Well, what does tropical mean?
So, Western tropical astrology is based on aligning the astrological cycle of the 12 signs with the 4 seasons of the year. And so it's how we know that, for example, in March 20th, 21st is the beginning of spring, which is true on our Gregorian calendar. And then in Western tropical astrology, it aligns with the beginning of Aries season and the beginning of the full zodiac wheel. So that's actually an astrological new year, is the spring equinox. So in Western tropical astrology, you have these astrology signs that are syncing up with the 4 seasons, and that's what keeps it stable and reliable throughout our calendars. So it's a different system than other systems that aren't aligned specifically with the 4 seasons.
Mhm. What was it about Western tropical astrology that drew you in versus a different type of astrology?
I just always clicked with it. The different systems, I think every system is valid. And in fact, I share with people like go with whatever system speaks to you. They all have something to offer. It's not a competition. And people go into comparison. That's very human of us to start
Yeah, yeah.
comparing.
Right,
But it's like,
right.
no, they all offer something. They're all valid because they're all connecting you with a timeline or an experience of energy and consciousness. So it's simply going with whatever syncs up for you. But I found that Western tropical astrology was very valid. When I've used it with clients and with their transits, it's very validating for what they're moving through. And it's practiced widely with many astrologers around the world. So we're all kind of having these ongoing contributions to what's happening in the energies right now. So yeah, it's a pretty dominant system of astrology that many people follow.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious about the way that your mind works when it comes to astrology because it it seems so scientific. Like it's like there's just so many details. I
Mhm.
mean, I get so overwhelmed, like with oh my god, there's these signs and this moons and this seasons and this. It feels so scientific to me, and
Yeah.
yet I know there's an intuitive aspect to it. So help me understand your mind and how that more detail oriented aspect of astrology interfaces with the intuitive aspect.
So this is a great question and great topic, David, because when I was first doing sessions for people, I would have all these notes on everything going on in their chart and this transit and this aspect and everything very detailed. Like I had it written down because I didn't want to miss anything. And I wanted to be sure and touch on what was important for them to know. And so I would go through it all and I would find that there's so much going on that I had to almost shift into trusting what I was feeling strongest about and picking up on the intuitive messages that came through. And so that's when I started to move into the intuitive nature of astrology, the energetics and the consciousness of it that's always flowing through, where we don't only rely on the specifics or the more scientific exactness of it. And when I did that, I found I started to get better messages for people. There was more coming through that was more personal or even supported them in next steps. There was more happening in their energy field that they felt resonated. They felt like, yes, that aligns. Yes, that's true. So I feel that with astrology, it's such a portal. It's an opening into understanding these specifics of the cosmos because it is scientific. There's a lot of math, there's a lot of numbers, there's the different degrees and angles and all these things going on that are showing the energy and showing a story. And so after understanding all of those specifics, the science of it, it became easier to open up to kind of more of the art of it or the intuitive nature of astrology. So to understand the science of it, I think takes a long time because there are some things that are intricate. There are hierarchies of energies in an astrology chart in the transit. So there's things you're looking at that are more important than other things and you need to have time to play with that, to work with it and to see what's valid and what's true. And the more you do so, you're able to look at, okay, this is what's dominant for this person right now, or this is what's really important for them to know about what's coming in next. So it does take practice. Of course, there's things you get wrong or you miss or you're off on it. That's just part of it. That's just part of any like humanness in practice. But the more that I've worked with my intuition with astrology, the more I felt things open up and flow. And so I love being able to offer that to people, just hoping that it, resonates with them and that it gives them more to work with and understand.
Mhm. As a top level professional astrologer, how do you utilize astrology in your own life? What does that look like on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Like, I know you're not opening up a magazine to turn to the back to look at your astrology sign,
I
right?
used to, I used to, and yeah, I
But
used to,
how do
go to the computer lab to look up on the astrology websites what was going on in my chart. So I still reference it. Of course, I know my chart enough by now to track what's going on, but it helps me understand what to focus on in different phases of life. when something is helpful for a beginning, or when there's going to be some hard endings, when there's going to be some tough changes. Like, it's good to have a heads up on that. It helps me in understanding when some years or some months are a little bit quieter, more internal, when there's less I'm meant to do externally and more to do internally. It helps with planning. I run my business off of my astrology chart. That's just part of being an entrepreneur and being in charge of it. I work with the transits that are happening, and I've learned to trust it. I've learned that it's real, and that it's something that shows where the universe is working with you, not against you. So I've used it as an ongoing practice simply because of how it supports my own energy. I also use it, David, to give myself time off when I'm like, Molly, stop it. You need a break. You need to step away. You need more downtime. So it also helps me practice my own self care, and know when it's okay to do less and to not feel guilty about that, or to think I should be producing more.
Yeah. Do you happen to have a practical example that comes to mind where you saw something on your chart and you were like, okay, that is going to directly impact my choice? I know you just mentioned time off, but is there a physical, like a practical example of something you did in your business or your life that comes to your mind?
Yeah, well, actually, right now I'm in a period of redoing my whole website. And it was like that. This is the time for it. This was the time for the right professionals, the right process, the right creative abilities to come through. So I worked with that as part of the timing. I work with it for planning my retreats or my events that I'm offering when I have like more energy for something. I use it too to look at, well, what should I expect of myself right now? Because the truth is, like, a lot of how I work is pretty inconsistent. I'm not, there's things I do regularly, sure, but then there's a lot of things that I'm like, I don't know the deadline on this, or I don't know when this is going to launch. So I'm working with the energies like that. I'm working with them to determine, okay, I have some books right now that I am moving forward to be published, and I'm looking at when is the right time to launch these books. And honestly, I don't know yet, because I'm not there. So I don't always work in a concrete fashion. I work with the flows and I trust it. That's very much a different approach than a lot of people, but it's what works for me. So that's why I share it. So I guess what it comes down to is that when you know your astrology chart and these transits, you're able to simply embrace your own unique path and to adjust your self expectations. Because, oh my gosh, I've always been so hard on myself, David, about getting things done. I've been like, I've got to get this done. This is the deadline. It should launch, the first of the month. And astrology has allowed me to soften into myself and be like, Molly, it's okay to allow it to unfold and not expect it to look like it has to launch by the first. So I guess those are some ways that I use astrology, is to just simply be more self-accepting and self-loving of who I am, and how I'm here to get things done.
I was just going to ask you that because I was like, wait a second, you go with the flow. You do not come across as a go with the flow person. You come across as like you've got your 10 steps and you've got it all figured out and you're going to, so it's kind of allowed you to kind of shift a bit.
Yeah, and I always have multiple projects in motion. And I always am looking at, okay, what has energy for me right now? I mean, there's a project I started, I think back in 2024, that I haven't even finished yet. So I have things in various stages, and they rotate in where they have importance, or where I think people would want them or need them right now. So because I have so many things in motion and so many things being juggled, I'm able to choose, what I think would be the most relevant. But I also like that. Like, I love creating, I love doing, I love getting things done. That's natural for me because of my flow with it, though. So yeah, that's part of just knowing myself, is I like to be in motion.
Yeah. Oh, I do too. I like it. What's interesting is when I look at what you are offering, my sense is that at some point in your career, you shifted from doing one on one work to offering a lot of online courses.
Hmm.
Can you walk us through that? At what point did you make that shift? And I mean, man, Molly, you got a lot of online courses. You've been a busy bee.
Yeah, I first started, I think, in 2016 or 2017, making my first courses, and I did that while I was a stay-at-home mom. I was a full time stay at home mom with my son every day. We were out the door by 9 a.m. because he was always so active. He'd be doing like parkour around the house if we didn't go somewhere. And then by the afternoon, he would always have a 3 hour nap every day, like clockwork. And that's where I was able to either schedule sessions or do my podcast or work on one of my classes. And I needed that. Like I needed that mental focus. I needed something adult that was my own to get done, and a way to be creative. It was an outlet for me. So I was working on things a little bit by a little bit. And then by the time my son went to preschool, I was able to invest more time in building up my platform, and having more sessions with people. And so the sessions were fantastic for all the people I connected with all around the world. I mean, I was up at 7 a.m. to work with people in Australia, or I would, be available for people in Japan or Europe or whatever. So I met so many amazing people with the sessions, but it just became a matter of I didn't have as much time anymore, and I had to switch to developing courses that would benefit more people. So that's how that kind of came about. Was it was simply a matter of, what would be a better way of supporting more people is through the courses and programs that show them how to understand their own energy, because that's one of my driving intentions, David, is like people have the right to know themselves and to know their energy. And I hope that these offerings give them something to understand and work with.
It was so interesting because as I'm looking at your website, I'm like, whoa, she's empowering people to do this work themselves, to understand and like have the wisdom, tap into both the science and the intuition versus having to just rely on you. It felt so I could feel that even through your website. I was like, wow, she's empowering people to understand and know what's going on. So you do have quite a few courses though. So if someone is, let's just say, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, what are three courses that you would suggest for kind of those three different levels?
So for beginners, there is the Introduction Astrology course, which is where you look at your chart, and then you also get a report from me that shows your main energies and what's important for you to focus in on, because there's a lot in astrology and it can be overwhelming at first. So this is a way for people to fine tune and know what's essential for them in their chart. And so then they learn more about the basic components of astrology signs, planets, houses, and aspects. And once you have those basics down, you then take those basics and keep applying them to different forms of interpretation. And so after someone knows the basics, then they can move on to more intermediate level, which tends to be the solar return chart, which is your birthday every year. And the solar is sun returns to its exact place in the sky when you were born, and it creates a new chart for you every year. It's called your solar return chart. And so your sun remains in the same sun sign, but everything else is in a different place. And it's basically interpreting your solar return chart for the next 12 months. So that is very popular. People love doing that for themselves. And the program I offer is one where people come back and revisit it every year. So you buy it once, then you come back every year and keep interpreting what's going on in your solar return so that you have a heads up on what's happening in your life. So that's a great one. And then another one that people like that's a little bit more advanced is called your progressed chart, which is where the energies are based on your natal chart, but there's different calculations about what is unfolding for you across your lifetime. So the progress chart is looking at your big milestone years, big shifts and changes that are unfolding for you throughout the course of your life. It's more of a long-term view of your life journey. So, yeah, there's just a number of ways to understand your astrological energies. And like you said, I just want people to know that for themselves and to feel empowered, to get past any overwhelm and to know that, yes, you can understand this and you can tune into this for yourself.
Yeah. One of the things that has been also part of your service to people is channeling. And so I'm curious about when you were introduced to channeling and how that became part of your offering.
So that was something that started for me unexpectedly, which maybe is highly relatable, back in 2009. And that was a very quiet time for me. 2008, 2009 were very hard years where a lot was leaving my life and the new hadn't presented itself yet. So I had a lot of time by myself and I did some house sitting for friends. So I was alone in different spaces or I was taking care of their animals. And I started to connect with more and more energies that I had met through other people's offerings. I really love the work of Oren and Dabin by Sanaya Roman. I really loved the work of Lee Carroll and his channeling. I saw him in 2007 live. He's been around forever. So I resonated with a lot of people who were channeling, and it's almost like they were adjusting my frequency to receive the same. So it was when I was alone that I started to do automatic writing, simply asking questions and then, writing down what comes in. And it was through those practices that I started to feel the shift, recognize the energies, ask more questions to get more clear answers. And I kept testing it, like as you do to see, okay, is this accurate? Is this real? And it was. And it was really validating from my path, from my journey to just keep trusting. And so throughout the years, it became stronger because it's like a muscle we build, right? Like, as you know, it's something that you learn to trust and work with. And so then as I started to do more astrological readings, the information started to come through the chart and it's become more of a regular presence for me, more of a ongoing relationship that I have with galactic energies when I'm at that frequency, because sometimes I'm not. Like sometimes I'm, very much in the 3D or very much, concerned with things that are heavier. But when my energy is open and lighter, I feel their presence. I see a lot with my third eye. I feel a lot. I get a lot of visuals, a lot of downloads that just come through like that. So it's kind of always on. And it's something that I've loved to offer and share with people. Even on my YouTube channel, I have a playlist about channeled messages that I've shared since 2020 to help people move through this very big decade and this very big time. And I also believe, that so many people are more connected to galactic energies and cosmic frequencies. And that's exciting right now that more people are tuning into their own channeling capabilities.
Mhm. Is there a particular galactic friend that you feel like you channel or a counsel, or is it more just an energetic presence for you?
It is it's a few different energy frequencies. One I identify with is called the commander, which I see as a collection of consciousness energies that presents as masculine, as we would identify it, but has a lot of layers of wisdom. Sometimes I see a council kind of like around a boardroom table. Sometimes I feel very specific energies. Sometimes I feel very Pleiadian energies, or from Sirius or Arcturian. They kind of all have their own different expressions and presentations of frequencies. So they rotate through. Some have been from Lyra, but overall, I feel it as a very strong, commanding energy that always just feels very safe, strong, clear, very direct, and very strong. I'm repeating myself. Very strong. So that's where I'm feeling the
I think it's
energies.
strong. I think
Very
you said
strong.
it's strong. Yeah.
So that's where I feel the most consistency, but sometimes it'll rotate, um, depending on whatever the case may be.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know we talked about creating just a moment of space
Mhm.
to see if there would be a message
Mhm.
that would like to come through
Mhm.
specifically around astrology. Is
Mhm.
that something that we could create space for?
Yeah, absolutely. Because before this interview, I was feeling the message very clearly about the future of astrology. And so what what I was being shown and how it was presenting was that we have been in this ongoing intense energy to start to learn and trust ourselves in the cosmos even more, and that humans are becoming clearer energetic beings. And so we've been removing the false ego, the fears, the intense emotions, and the density. We've been working through all that for decades because we're made to be lighter beings, like to hold more light, but to also be lighter in our expressions, connections, and abilities to enjoy the earth. And so, what they're saying is that part of the future of astrology is the future of humanity, and that we are learning how we are cosmic beings, and that we have this innate connection to the cosmos beyond what we ever have known. It's embedded in us at a very powerful DNA level. It's more cellular than we realize. We're going to start to see that through various scientific developments and experiments, that we are embedded with so much more cosmic intelligence than has been previously proven, and that the future of astrology is going to be shifting how humanity lives, because we're going to be so synced up with the cosmos that we don't have to only rely on the mind. And we've thought we always have to think it through, decide, talk it out, figure it out. We grow up relying on the brain. That's what basic education focuses on, the tests and the studies and the projects, and everything is mind based. But we're evolving to being more cosmic beings who are energetically based. And astrology is guiding us through that and is guiding us forward. And so they're saying that's why astrology is also resonating with so many people right now, because people are feeling that it's a big part of their awakening, and they have to get through the mental blocks around it, including the doubt, the fact that, oh, I don't believe in that, even all the past life programming that's showing up, as a parallel lives around what astrology is or isn't, especially all the way it's been weaponized, demonized, all of that. They're saying that all of that is changing because you were always meant to be this powerful on the planet, and that astrology is one of those guiding tools for remembering who you came here to be. And so they're saying that the future of astrology is built in and inherent to how humans are here to prosper, and how you're here to love and accept yourselves in these higher timelines.
Hmm. Anything else you sense?
That there's a lot of support, but it honors the human individual path, and that there's going to be people who rapidly connect with more cosmic languages. Something else they've shared with me, David, is that we are moving into new forms of language that it's not simply based on the alphabet or even symbols and glyphs. We're going to have more energetic coding that we pick up on, especially next decade, that we are preparing for. And it's going to be part of our accelerated evolution, that we start to connect with each other and connect with situations and environments based on the energetics even faster. Telepathy is one way that happens, but there's other ways that we're going to be living on the planet that is potentially purer and clearer energetically. And then they're showing me that, some of the concerns are about the incoming humanoids and robotics that can block frequencies that we need. So we're going to have some choices to make around what we allow in our environment and how those frequencies affect our frequencies, because some of these are intrusions, they're artificial in their nature. But there's something about, we don't want to stop our own intuitive advancements and our own evolutionary growth. But we have to be aware that we're capable of this, and that we don't need a lot of other technologies to interfere or replace the human consciousness.
Mm. Anything else?
Um, I could keep going. They're saying too that it's exciting right now because more people are on board than ever before. We've surpassed what was previously expected or anticipated. It's kind of like more people have shown up to the party than we had space for, and that's fantastic because it's helping with the acceleration. We passed tipping points on the planet that have supported, where we're going next. They've also said that we're going to have our capabilities uploaded and coming online even faster. And that's why even sleep is becoming more essential because we need the downtime. And there's more going on at a neurological level than what we can fully understand. But we're going to have more of the disruptive sleep, that famous 3 to 5 club. But we're also going to be changing our sleep patterns overall, and that there's going to be like shorter periods of deep sleep, and then we're awake, and then shorter periods of deep sleep again, almost like a real siesta or a real nap time that's going to become perhaps more commonplace in various parts of the world, simply as part of this changing in our energies and the new ways that we're adapting to these faster moving higher frequencies.
I'm glad I keep asking if there's anything else because it feels like the well is full.
Yeah. There's just a lot of excitement about how different ways of working with energy are being embraced. And they're also showing me that we have some really cool new archetypes of healers coming online. And so, this is a very important message for those of you who have gifts that aren't known yet or that people don't understand. They're saying that you are bringing onto the planet more of what you came here to experience that is from other planets, that is from other places. And that's also beautifully supporting humanity right now. So there's this message of encouragement for people who are like, well, I do this thing and it's really weird, or I channel in a different way, or I have these gifts that no one understands. They're saying, bring it all to the party, bring it all, feel confident, feel strong. Chances are you have access to this on other dimensions and other realms, and you have support. So ask for that support. But they're saying this is an exciting time for us to see more of what we're made of and more of what we can do. So yeah, just for those of you who are wondering if you don't have to be typical anything. You don't have to be a typical healer, a typical astrologer. There's none of that anymore. It's more about showing up with what you can do uniquely, and that's exactly what's needed.
I will receive that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for all of that beautiful, powerful message. Thank you, Molly. Wow. You okay if we shift?
Yes. Yeah, I'm
Or is
good.
there
Thank
more?
you.
You okay?
I'm great. Yeah, no, it just makes me happy.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
You have a twice a week podcast called Intuitive Astrology, and we'll of course link to that. But I'm curious, what will people experience when they subscribe?
Yes. So I've been doing the podcast since 2012, and it has shifted in its forms and focus. I have just recently added a third podcast a week. So it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because apparently I'm insane. But I just like to give people more information about the current energies that are coming through. It is intuitive, but it's also astrologically based. I pull in whatever messages, I'm feeling and sensing. Sometimes it's much more about the astrology of right now. Other times we focus on the energetics, what you might be feeling in the human body, what you might be sensing all around you in the collective. So basically, I just like to give messages that support people's empowerment, their choices, and their light. And to remember that, of course, there's a divine purpose for all of this, even when it's really hard and challenging. And I hope to just offer them a perspective that supports their energy.
Mhm. I'm curious about your own experience of being an entrepreneur. You have a successful business, a way of serving people. You're creating all this content. You're a podcast host. You're a mom. I'm supposedly, I'm assuming you take care of yourself in some way, right? How do you navigate all of these different roles and responsibilities that you have?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a lot, and it's a lot to be a modern woman or just a modern business person with all these things we juggle. I do have a structure that works around my son's school. You know, I take him to school in the morning and then I have to pick him up, so I get as much done by 3 p.m. as I can.
Does he still
I,
take the 3 hour nap?
no, he does not, but I wish I could. I would like to do that. So, and I fit in time to work out, to go for walks because I have to process, think, receive. And then I also will work on some weekends. It depends on what is going on. So my schedule fluctuates a lot, but I always will check in on what I need. If I need more sleep, if I need to take a nap, if I need to go for a walk, if I need to keep working. So I think that's what I love about being an entrepreneur is that I get to choose and I get to go with that, whatever is coming up. And as I mentioned, I always have many things in various stages of creation. So that keeps me motivated and keeps things moving. I also have people who work for me, who support me. So I don't do it all myself.
Sure,
I
of course.
also, yeah, I also use, any of the automation and online tools that help us, right? Like you have to these days. So all of that allows me to focus on what I'm good at and then allows me to delegate it to others so they can focus on what they're good at. So yeah, we definitely need support for this work and what we're doing.
Is your son fascinated by astrology, or does he just think his mom's crazy?
He doesn't get it. We don't talk. I mean, he's not. He's 10, so we talk about the Titanic. We talk about Legos. Like we talk about things that he's really into. He doesn't kind of get my world yet,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I do, and that's actually one of the ways I parent him. David is I know his Mercury. I know his moon. I know his energy. Like I make sure and tailor what I need to say or express to how he can receive it. So I actually use his astrology chart in my parenting because it's a great way to connect with your child and know who they really are.
Oh, that's so important. That's wonderful. You are a featured presenter at the Sedona Ascension Retreat in March, and so we're excited to be there with you. What will you be sharing with us there at the event?
Yeah, it's going to be a really beautiful gathering. I'm going to be on the main stage talking about how to be the galactic love glitch with these big astrological energies that are coming in. I'm specifically talking about Uranus in Gemini, Neptune in Aries, and Pluto in Aquarius, how each one is signaling new fast moving frequencies and how to work with them, especially as we become closer to meeting our galactic neighbors and friends. So it's going to be focused on what those changes look like and how each of us can embody them more as well as trust them more. And then I'm also teaching a workshop that shows people how to look at more multidimensional energies in their chart. And so I'm really excited about that because then you're going to be looking at what's happening in your chart and how your multidimensional gifts and abilities are coming in, what you're here to uniquely do and offer, or simply how to live your life with an acceptance of them. So, yeah, it's going to be some great conversations, and I'm really looking forward to meeting people. I think there's going to be a great gathering of people there.
Yeah. So Sedona Ascension Retreat, March. You can go to sedonaascensionretreats.com. Of course, that's in the show notes, and you can get tickets there. People want to dive into your online courses, as we talked about, and follow you on social media. What's the best place for people to connect with you?
You can find me at mollymccord.online. That's where you'll discover all the current offerings, as well as I have 12 books, 7 audiobooks, online courses, and some free stuff. I also have some meditations that people really love as well. So, all of that's designed to help you elevate your frequency and tap into more of the messages that you're ready to hear. And then, as we mentioned, I also have my podcast Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. That's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all the popular podcast distribution places. And I hope it's just something that you enjoy tuning into, and that, I can offer you some valuable messages to guide you through this time.
Wonderful. Thank you for being with us, Molly. It's so great to get to know you and hear your heart and passion to help people. So thank you.
Well, thank you, David. It's an honor to be here, considering all the amazing people you connect with. I'm grateful to be a part of this conversation. So thank you for having me.